Hello, everybody.
Hey,
We
welcome back.
are back in action. I feel like it's been a hot minute.
It really
I
has.
mean, I think it's only been a month or so, but I feel like
So,
it's like 2024 by now. Like I feel like it's gone by so fast.
and I feel like a lot has just changed in general.
Oh yeah,
That
like it
month.
is it is what 6:54 and it's like dark outside and I hate that.
Yes.
This is the time of year that I absolutely hate.
I'm pretty sure it's daylight savings time this weekend.
Yeah, on my way to work this morning, it said sunrise at like 8:05 and sunset at like 6:30. And I'm like, that is gross because it's dark when I go to work and it's almost dark when I get home from work.
Yeah. Did you
Like,
get did you guys get snow? I know that you just got back from your trip, but did you get
yes.
snow?
So yeah, I traveled last week. No surprise to the true followers here. I was in Florida last week. Well, Tuesday through Friday. And it was like in the 80s. It was great. But I looked at the weather before I left because it's Nebraska. And it says this was like 28 degrees on Saturday. So I packed warm clothes to wear home to the airport, which on the flight and stuff, usually like on the airline stuff, it's usually cold anyway, which
Hmm.
I don't mind. So I always like dress warm, but I didn't take a coat, which I probably should have. I just had like a hoodie. And so, yeah, getting back into Nebraska and like walking outside, yeah, I was like, wow, this sucks. So we didn't get a whole lot of snow Saturday, but like I woke up Sunday and there was like snow on the ground, but like just a little dusting and it's pretty much melted now.
Yeah, that was the
So
same as where we're at. But in my hometown, they had a good chunk of snow.
yeah, I just am not ready for it. And I'm ready to move out of the Midwest where the snow's at. So yeah, I have a friend who was like, I'm ready to move as well. So to my 5 year plan. I made a 5 year plan this past year, like what I want to accomplish in the next 5 years. And that's on the plan is move out of the Midwest.
To
So
where?
I don't know for sure, but somewhere where like there's no snow. Like I'm done with it. And I can't imagine like how it would be like as I get older and my bones are more brittle. Like I can't imagine like I have older grandparents, my parents are older, like
Mhm.
and they're all so achy like in the winter when the weather changes. And I'm already getting that way a little bit. And I'm like, that just is not fun. But also like driving in the winter and just the cool temps, like not for me anymore. So I'm thinking like I'm in Florida. I visit there often. That wouldn't be bad. California obviously is a contender as well, but for licensure purposes, it's expensive to get licensed in different states. In California, there's another exam they have to take.
Ew, oh,
Yeah, so I'm like that's something that's going to be a real drawback because as we talked about before, testing's not my strong suit. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, so we'll kind of see. But this week or this month, I guess we kind of do this on a monthly basis, but we're gonna wrap up our travel talk. I'm sure we'll talk about travel on every episode because that's what I like to do. But last week or last
just
week,
last week.
sorry. Um last episode we talked about like Nebraska, like hidden treasures here in Nebraska, what we've witnessed, what we've saw, where we'd like to visit here in our the Good Life state. But tonight we're going to talk about our bucket list travel places and where we've been already and where we would like to go. So I guess I'll kind of start and where I've been a lot. I would say in the last 4 years since becoming a travel agent, I've really broadened my travel like bucket. I'll say I think before then I definitely traveled. I would say to California a lot. My mom's from California, born and raised up until she lived there until she was like 2021. So we would always go visit there, and it's just like my familiar place. And so if I want to take a trip, I go to California. I have family out there. I can stay with them. It's convenient, right? And then when I became a travel agent and getting to go on these different trips, whether it's with my agency or just with, the perks I have, I guess I should say, I have really trying to, experience a little bit more. And so I was able to go on a cruise this last year. And I think that's something that I never like envisioned doing. Have you been on a cruise before?
I have not, but like when I was younger, sure, but anymore, I am just fearful like that I will be stuck on this ship and not be able to go to the
Right.
bathroom
Okay.
or
So that's what I was low key hoping you would say because I was the same way. I was just like, I don't know if I want to do this. Like, am I gonna get like seasick? Am I
yes.
like, is it not gonna go well? But let me tell you, like, it was one of the most like thrilling experiences of my life, and thrilling meaning in a good way. Because the ship is so big. Number one, like I've seen pictures, I've seen other travel agents that I work with go on cruises. I've seen, friends, family, everything like that, right? And I was just like, wow, like I just need to experience this for myself. And so that's what I did for my 30th. I went last March. I went like a couple weeks after my 30th, but anyway, celebrated my dirty 30 on a cruise ship. And I did not get sick once. I didn't, I had like motion sickness, like the patches. I had some Dramamine. I was like, I'm just not gonna take it. I'm gonna be a risk taker and I'm not gonna do it. I felt fine. And I was able to use the facilities just fine. Um, so I think it went well. But I think the ship is just so big in general that you're just mesmerized. Like just looking at everything, I was like, holy cow, this is all on a ship. Like, so I would definitely encourage everybody to try it at least once. But if you've had history of like being seasick, like definitely use the patches and things like that. There's great things out there, but it's just so fun.
So you're
And
saying it's not like the Titanic.
no, not at all. But you definitely get to experience lots of different things. You're able to first off the different ports that they go to are great. I went to the Bahamas. I don't know if I would do it again, but a lot of the cruises go to the Bahamas, so it just depends. But like the area I went to just wasn't the cleanest, and so I went off the ship because I wanted to get my passport stamped because it was my first like international place, and kind of just walked around and then got back on the ship. You have days at sea where you're still on the ship and they do different activities those days, but in the evenings when you're back on the ship from where you're at, it's great. So in the Bahamas you're like be able to be off the ship for like 8 9 hours and they want you back on the ship. And then went to Royal Caribbean, has like a private island, as does Disney. And they have different beaches and different activities you can do, and that was fun too. So just get to do all the different activities, and it's really affordable too, especially if you book in advance. And obviously, you can make payments too. But really, I mean, there's always great deals that are out there. And I think now, just being a travel agent and having the opportunity to help other people experience those things, I think is great. So I'm ready to go on another cruise for sure. And then of course the Disney, right? I've talked about it before, but I visit there often, and it's something that never gets old. And I've had people say, "Oh, you're going to Disney again? Like, weren't you just there?" Yeah, I was, but like,
How many times have you gone?
I think my first time was like 2017, maybe 2018. And I think I've been probably every year since then. And sometimes multiple times a year, depending on like what's going on. We've done some trainings there for the travel agency, so that's nice to be able to like have some behind the scenes information and just to get to learn more about it, to be able to sell it, right? And then personally, I've been there just on like family trips and stuff like that. But I feel like everything changes every time you go there, like especially if you go different times of the year. I went
Yeah.
there, I was there Friday just at one park. And they already had some Halloween stuff up and a little bit of Christmas, but like November 1st, it's all Christmas already. Like it's just how they do it. It's crazy. So
True Thanksgiving.
yeah, who needs Thanksgiving? Yeah. So I think those are like must see places for me. What about you? What were some of your favorite trips that you've been on, like growing up?
Well, growing up, I would say I'm a history buff, and especially American history. My family and I went to Washington, D.C. when I was like a freshman going on sophomore year of high school, I think it was. Um, so that was my favorite because I got to see like, yeah, I just love history. Like my favorite was going to Ford Theater to see where Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. And
Mhm,
then they take you across the street to the house where he basically died at.
mhm.
So that was really cool. And seeing all what, like all the history stuff and taking tours of all that.
I
It
did
was
that a
really
few
cool.
years ago. Well, maybe last year, 2 years ago. I don't remember, but I went, and
Yeah.
it's just amazing. The stuff that we like learned in school,
Yes.
and just get to experience it, in real time, and just get to see like where the politicians are at, right, and
Mhm.
what they get to do.
Yeah. It's kind of amazing because like in pictures or even in like movies, everything looks so close together, but it's not. It's a
No,
lot of walking
it is for
and
sure.
it's very humid there. So, but it was still amazing just to see everything and all the history and everything.
Mhm.
So I'd say that was one of my favorites. I've been to Michigan because I had an aunt and uncle that lived up there. Um, so it was pretty cool. Florida, of course.
Right.
The aunt and uncle that lived in Michigan now live in Florida. They have a house there and in North Carolina. So
Oh, so fun. Yeah, I would love to go back to Washington, D.C. I think even just seeing the same things, but trying different things, I think it was really cool. I think where I stayed in the hotel, it was a very nice hotel, but it was also close to a metro stop. And so I was able to just like pretty much like walk around the corner to get on the metro. I think
yeah.
it's really, really nice because that's what we took. I mean, you could Uber and do all of those things, right? But I think it was cheap to have it get a metro pass for like the 4 or 5 days we were there.
Yeah. And it's honestly, if I remember correctly, it wasn't that hard to figure out the metro all too much.
No, I'd have
It's
to.
like
I
color
had a map.
coordinated.
Yeah, I had a map on my phone and was able to tell you like, take the blue line to this stop, get on the green line or whatever. Uh,
Mhm.
but the friend I went with was actually my high school history teacher.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so she's been there plenty of times, and so she was able to kind of just remember and recall where to go. And so it was like having like my personal tour guide at times, and it was great. So
Yeah.
I think it'd be easier now knowing that I've been there and can kind of understand it. But yeah.
Yeah. When I was younger in Florida, we went to Universal Studios. That was really cool to go
Yeah.
see. We were supposed to go to Disney, but we decided to go to
Hmm.
Universal Studios. That was really cool to see all that stuff. I wouldn't mind going back, but anymore, I've shared before, is like I'm not much of a crowd person, so
Hmm.
seeing lines and just being annoyed
Right. Yeah.
might ruin the experience.
Right. I was at Universal last week for a couple days. And I think I've gotten used to the crowds, but really you have to just plan it, right?
Yeah,
And I mean, you can't plan the crowd levels, number one, but also just plan your day, right? The apps are very user friendly to kind of tell like what the wait times are. And so I always just encourage myself, like my clients that I book, like use the app to your favor and monitor those wait times. And that's exactly what we did too. I mean, just because we're travel agents, we're like, oh, you can get in for free, you can do all this for free. No, we got to do everything just like a normal person would do. But that's how we sell it. We go there, we visit, we take pictures, we we have to be able to experience it ourselves. I don't want to tell a client, oh, go on this ride, it's so fun, but I've never been on it. And then they go and say, oh, I hated it. Yeah,
yeah,
that's not a good, seller, but Universal's fun. They have some fun new stuff. They do a bunch of Halloween stuff, like they do like Halloween Horror Nights. It's not for me. I get scared easily just normally. So if you are a Halloween buff and love that type of stuff, I encourage you to go try it out. Yeah, it's fun. So I think those are always places that I know, like if I wanted just a good little like thrilling adventure getaway, I'll go there. But
Hmm.
bucket list items, that's what I've been really trying to hit and on my list. So what are some of your bucket list places you would like to visit?
Well, so for our honeymoon, we did go to Punta Cana,
Dominican.
which is in the Dominican Republic, because my goal in life was to get a passport and use it. Well, I've done that. I've flown there. I don't, I would be okay if I don't ever leave the US again. However, I would like to go to like Jamaica, and I would love to go like to Europe. That'd be awesome. But again, I would be a-okay if I didn't go overseas.
Right. Yeah, that's for me. I feel like I'm not a very patient person, number one. And so like long flights, I don't think I would do well on. The flight from like Omaha to Florida was like 2 hours and 45 minutes. That's about all I could do. I mean, I've done like longer flights, like maybe 5 hours at most, I've done. Otherwise, I mean, Europe, I know I had a friend that she lives in California and she flew from Europe to the US. I don't know if it was back to California where it was 11 and a half hours for one flight. I was like, I don't know what I would do. Like, I would probably have to take sleeping pills to like knock me out so
Yeah.
I could sleep, And I think you probably could splurge a little bit. I think I probably would splurge a little bit and like either have first class or get like the premium economy where like your seats can recline all the way down or something where like it's more comfortable for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for
That's
sure.
exactly where I would want to go to. Like I definitely want to go to Europe. Ireland, Italy, and Spain are all on my list. Just for like heritage reasons, I feel like I have I'm Irish and I'm Italian. I don't have a lot of like Spanish history, but my step grandfather is Spanish and he talks about it all the time. And I think it just is great just to see all that. So those are all on my list, but again, pricey. And we,
Yes.
we are social workers out here. We ain't making the big bucks.
No, no, we aren't. Yeah. I think I would be a-okay if I was able to hit all 50 states.
Right.
I think that's my biggest goal, is to try to
Same.
get all 50 states, because I would love to. If I did a cruise, I would like to do like Alaska cruise
Yes.
and see all that stuff up that way. And I would love to see like the Northern Lights, and I could do that from Canada. Like that's still part of like
Right.
North
Well,
America.
if you do an Alaskan cruise, they typically go out of like Ontario, Canada, or like Seattle, Washington. So if you haven't been to Washington, you could knock Washington off your list, hit a cruise. There you go.
And go to Canada
You go
and
to
get my
Canada.
passport stamped again.
Yes, for sure. So yeah, I think my passport has like 6 years left on it because they're good for 10 years. So
Mhm.
before it expires, I know it can renew and you can, finish up whatever. I definitely want to hit some like maybe two international stops before then, but things are pricey out here.
Yes. I mean, it's cheaper to go to Mexico.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So those are some fun bucket list places for sure. I think just traveling in general. I think it's just a good like refresh. And I was in a training today for leadership and customer service training. And I find myself a fairly good leader and really good with customer service, obviously with social work, and we want to put the client first as best as we can, um, and really just provide that great service, right? And this training, I went into it thinking, I'm already a great leader, I provide great customer service, but you can never stop learning, right? And just learning
right.
new skills to
Yeah.
use, right? And having a different person you never met come in and say, these are some things to try out. And one thing he said was, you got to find your peace and quiet, right? Where can you find your peace and quiet? Some people like to read. Some people like to take baths. Some people like to sleep. Some people like to run,
Meditate.
meditate. There you go. And I said I like to travel, which all the other managers that were there were like, they all know. But I like to travel, and I feel like that's where I find my peace and quiet. And some people are like, how do you do that? Because if you go to Disney or Universal, it's probably super loud there. Yeah, but that's not the point. I find my peace and quiet by just getting out, leaving work behind, leaving my hometown, and just going somewhere where I'm not as stressed, right? And you're able to just
Yeah.
be peaceful, right? And so what do you feel like your peace and quiet is? Like, what do you do to find your peace and quiet?
Gosh.
On the spot.
Well, are we talking about coping skills now, basically?
A little bit.
I don't know. I just kind of enjoy the best refresh for me is just coming home, watching TV that I don't have to think about. And that's where my husband gets mad when I watch like the oh gosh, like Beverly Hills Housewives,
Like
Vanderpump Rules.
the cringy reality shows.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And so that I could just sit there and indulge in their drama.
And leave everything aside. Yeah,
Yes.
I can relate to that too. I think it's good to be able to come home and like not have any plans, right? And some days that's hard for me just because I am, working a couple different jobs and I'm taking some leadership classes now. So sometimes I feel like, oh, you're leaving work, like you're leaving the actual office, but then you come home and you might have other things you got to do.
Right.
And that's tough. And you can probably relate to of having to come home and cook supper or do laundry or clean up dog poop or do things that like you can't just come home and sit your butt on the couch for 3 hours before you go to bed. Like, we're adults, we have to do things, but just be able to like be in a different headspace of like, I'm not at work anymore. I can come home and just do what comes.
Yeah. That's why I kind of enjoy my 30-minute commute to work.
Right.
To and from is just so that I can really just listen to a podcast,
Debrief.
listen to music, something like that to just not necessarily relax, but just kind of what's that word that I'm trying to look
Like
for?
debrief. Right.
Yes,
Like,
there you go.
like
Yes.
really just figure out like what's to come at work, right? And when you're leaving, like, all right, going home, not have to worry about it, right? Not taking your work with you at home. Sometimes that can be tough. I do the same thing. Like I sometimes will listen to podcasts or sometimes I'll just like have my music on shuffle. And my music library, let me tell you, is like everything from Mercy Me, Christian to Taylor Swift, 1989, Taylor's version, superb. Or I will go to like High School Musical, Luke Combs, country. Like it's just sporadic, and I think like that's also like interesting too. Like you don't expect what you're gonna get. I mean, I'll fast forward through some of them, or I'm like, great, it's on shuffle for a reason. Let's embrace it. So that's always sometimes something to look forward to. But sometimes I drive home like in silence or on the way too. Because I also have a commute. I mean, not as long. It's like 12 minutes one way, but still, I mean, you got to do something.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I like to do. And I feel like it helps majority of the time, unless it's like a really bad day, then I have to, it's weird. So like on my way home, I'll visualize like leaving that stuff at a certain point of my commute and be like, you know what, I'll pick it up tomorrow. Because if I don't do that and I don't talk myself into doing that, then I will not sleep and it'll be tough because it'll just keep replaying in my head until I'm like, okay, Caitlin, you got to just leave it at that point on the road. I'll pick it up tomorrow.
Right. Yeah, I think sometimes like I'll be working on the way home too, like making phone calls. I have a work phone now, so sometimes that doesn't work out to your advantage. But sometimes, like right now, since I'm still doing a little bit of the behavioral health side of things and home health and hospice, I feel like sometimes you got to figure out like, where did I not, put in more effort today, right? And so sometimes I'll make phone calls like on the way home,
Mhm.
but then I also like don't answer that phone like in the evening, unless it's like urgent or something, and same thing like with, you know, my personal phone too. Sometimes I will, shut that off too. Like, I'm not doing this at 9 p.m. Right? Those boundaries, right? You gotta just do what you can do, right? But not, overcompensating for yourself, because I think even as social workers, I think we're the best at doing that, of just helping other people, but not helping ourselves, taking care of other people, I should say, and not taking care of ourselves. And that's one thing that this year I really focused on too, was putting myself first, right? And that's not professionally, right? Because professionally, you have to put other people first a lot of the times, but personally, especially, what do you need? What do you need for yourself, right? It doesn't matter what your friend down the street needs or your family needs, they're all good, right? But I feel like I'm the person that everybody reaches out to and says, oh, I need this or this and this. And I'm like, so do I. Welcome to the club. Like, but what do? I help them. I don't worry about me. And that's
Yeah.
tough, right?
Yeah. Boundaries are rough
They
just
are.
because they're awkward. You don't want to do them. But when you start doing them and start practicing the boundaries, it feels so good.
It does. And I think that's where travel comes into play for me too, is if I'm not here, if I'm not around, I find that people don't reach out to me as much as, oh, you're in Florida, or you're in California, or you're on a cruise. Like, you can't help me. I'm not here.
Okay.
And it's kind of crappy to think that way, but like it works, right? People don't reach out to you as much when you're traveling. Like when I was gone last week, I didn't take my work phone, obviously, but no one reached out to me from work on my personal phone too. They respect the boundaries, right? Unless it's like an emergency, of course, they know that. But even like family and friends, like didn't reach out a whole lot. Let them know I made it safely. Here I am, whatnot. But and that's great. Like, give yourself that time away. And I try to do that with other people too. Like if I know they're traveling, I'm the same way. Let them
Mhm.
have their fun, right? But it's tough sometimes. But boundaries are important. And I think for everybody that's listening, don't stress yourself out of putting a boundary into place. We're not saying, well, I'm not saying, I don't put words in your mouth, but to go out tomorrow and put all these boundaries in place, figure out what you want for yourself, right? And figure out ways that you can improve on, you know, um, because boundaries work differently for everybody.
And they look different to
Mhm.
everyone too. Whatever works for you is what's important.
Yeah. And what works for me is not going to work for Caitlin. It's not going to work for
Right.
everybody. I mean,
Like I don't bring my work phone home with me. I leave it at work.
yes. The only reason why I bring it home is because sometimes I'm not in the office. That's
Oh, okay.
with hospice, we're traveling. Like there's days I might not be in the office at all.
That's true. Hospice
You
is
know,
way different. But
yeah.
yeah,
But if I just had a work phone and I was in the office, yeah, for sure, I probably would leave it.
yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, again, like those are the boundaries that look different, right? And that's the tough piece of it. Um, yeah, traveling. I feel like too with hospice, I travel too, not
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
fun travel, but like I travel to different facilities. I travel to people's homes. And so it's a good way for me to get out of the office, because sometimes you're just in the office doing, looking at the computer or writing out reports or whatever. And it's like, ah. So I really try to strategically plan that out of I'll be in the office in the morning and then I'm out on the road in the afternoon. So you have that break up a little bit. But that's probably looks different for you. So
Oh
how do
yeah.
you break up your day as best as you can, I should say.
I don't. I literally don't, like I often will just have a protein shake and just drink it at my desk and continue to work. But I feel like though right now I'm able to leave work at work and it doesn't follow me. Right now it's not too stressful.
Mhm.
So, and also since I eat through lunch, I often will leave early on Fridays. So it's not like I'm giving time to work because I'm ultimately flexing it and leaving
Mhm.
work early.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I think for me, like I thrive being busy. Like I can't say no to a lot of things, personally and professionally. And sometimes that bites me in the rear end. And it's not that I can't say no because I clearly know the word no, but I feel like it's more of just wanting to help out whoever I can, whenever I can. Um, and with work right now, doing like double duty with my company, I feel like it wasn't something I was forced to do. Some people think that it was just something that I knew I needed to do, if that makes sense. I didn't want either department to suffer without a social worker, right? And I also didn't want the patients. I mean, we work with very vulnerable adults, and different populations too, because hospice can be, all populations,
mhm.
unfortunately. But with behavioral health and the program I work with, it's primarily geriatric behavioral health, so 55 and older typically. Um, and so I really had to sit down and decide, all right, if you're gonna do both, you're gonna have to make a decision and give one up at some point because this is not gonna work out forever. And just after the first month of doing both, I'm like, oh man, yeah, this is gonna have to happen sooner than later, and it was such a tough decision for me. And it's something that I thought about for like, I don't know, 3 months of like, all right, what are you gonna do? And I literally made a pros and cons list. And it's something that you're like, so silly. But like you gotta think about it. What's the
Yeah.
pros? What's the pros of your jobs now? What are the cons of it? What is something that you can give up, right? And it really went down to communicating with my managers and saying like, if I give this up, what can you offer, right? And it's something that was a tough decision. Ultimately, I knew I needed to make it, and I chose. And I'm giving up some great benefits, but I'm also gaining some great benefits too. So in the end, it'll be fine, and I think it'll ultimately help me grow as a social worker. And I think that's ultimately what we want in life is growth, personally and professionally too.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
and that makes it difficult. So yeah, it's it's tough, but again, I couldn't say no, but also it's like you got to give something up then, so I'm hoping come January when I'm down to just one job at the company and then I have my part-time clinical job too, but it's pretty part-time right now, so it's all right. I think I'm gonna be able to really figure out like what's it like to come home and not have to do something some nights. And I'm a little nervous to think like I'm gonna find something to do, not another job, but just like book myself up.
Yeah.
That's tough. Do you find that when you have free time during the week, or even like if you have a weekend free, do you feel like it's easy for you, like, oh, I'm just gonna stay home, it'll be fine?
Yeah.
Or do you find out, or do you like, oh, man, I have the whole month of November free, all my weekends. I'm gonna figure out what I can do and I'm gonna book myself up.
Sometimes it just depends. Like, and I don't know. Like, there's some weekends where I'm like, okay, I just need a weekend where I need to refresh. But that also means that like the weekend before that and the weekend after, I have something going on. But if it's like constant back to back weekends where um I don't have anything, I like to find, usually I text my best friend and like, "Hey, let's go out for lunch on Saturday." So we'll
Right.
meet up and do that. Um, because otherwise I'm just like, I don't know. Like last Saturday, there was a part of me where I was like, I am lame. I have no friends. I'm just at home cleaning, hanging out with my dog because my husband went hunting. So,
Uh-huh. I find myself similar. I feel like I have like a big calendar that I take with me like to work that I will put like a little bit of both. Like I'll put like some work stuff in it, but basically it's a lot of like personal stuff like travel dates or if I have family things going on or what I have kind of going on. And I also have one in my phone too because I always have my phone with me.
yeah.
But I always try to keep like one weekend a month like free, like not booking anything. Um, and kind of see what comes up. And so for example, like for October, I don't purposely leave like one weekend free. I kind of just like see what gets planned, like, oh, this week is gonna be free. And then if it comes down to it and I have someone that messages me like Friday night and say, hey, you want to go to Lincoln this weekend? You want to do this? I kind of explore like what are we gonna do? Right?
Yeah.
Like I want to go with the flow, but I need to know what the flow is. What are we doing? What are we wearing? What's the weather gonna be like? I gotta know. So really for October, I had like the first 2 weekends that I really didn't do a whole lot of, and that was great. But like November, like I have something um pretty much every weekend besides like Thanksgiving weekend, but like that's Thanksgiving. So you're gonna be doing something with your family most likely. But yeah, I mean I have something planned every weekend, and that's can be overwhelming to some, but
Mhm.
it's farther away now where like you can kind of plan for it, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and that makes it fun, but also like you have a lot going on. Like, how are we gonna
Exhausting
how are
too.
we gonna take
Yeah.
care of yourself? Right? It is exhausting, you're right. And so I really have to kind of think about it and there's fun things coming up. Like I have a gender reveal for my cousins. It's going to be like the first great grandchild in our family. So my grandma, of course, is very excited. Her first great grandchild. She was really hoping it was me, and I'm like, oh, it's not me. So, so that'll be fun to do that this weekend. And then one of my good friends is getting married the following weekend, and then I leave for Disney again.
Again.
Um, and for a week, and then it's Thanksgiving weekend. So like again, like they're fun things. It's not like it's like super like overwhelming things, like it's
Right.
fun, like meaningful things to do. Going to Disney with my mom, my sister, and then one of my best friends and her family, and they have never been. And so just to be able to experience that with them, I think will be super, super fun. And I'm excited just to get to show them around because I've been there plenty. So I feel like I kind of know the ropes a little bit. And so I think it'll be fun.
Yeah. Should be.
Take podcasts on the road and let's go.
Yeah. You'll
Live
be
from Walt
streaming
Disney World.
from yeah.
Can we imagine? I always thought about starting a travel vlog as well, just because I do travel a lot, but like I'm just not good. Number one is remembering to do so. Number one, but I feel like it just takes a lot of commitment, and with my schedule, commitment is his stuff sometimes. So, yeah, I think travel in general, I think it's good for the soul, but you also have to be in the right mindset for it. I
Mhm.
think especially somewhere big, if it's international, Disney, wherever, like really think about it, and weigh your options out. And I always tell clients that I work with, like if you've never been to Disney, for example, it's your first trip, you know, do what's comfortable for you budget wise too, but make it fun as well. There's so many different options there. And you want it to be special for them, of course. But same thing international. Like those are sometimes the international trips, especially are like once in a lifetime. Like
Yeah.
like once I go there, like I'm not ever gonna go back. It just depends. And so really like saving up for it and planning it out to be wonderful because again, you just never know. Those long flights, I might be able to do it once, you know. And so I think that's something too with travel is really planning out. And that's exactly what I do every year. So we're almost to the end of 2023. So crazy. So I already have my 2024 like travel plans kind of started. I haven't like booked anything for 2024 yet, I don't think. But I have like a list of like places I would like to go. Um, I'm sure I'll go to Disney again. But trying something new, of course, I want to do. I want to get to like South Carolina, like Myrtle Beach. I really want to go there. Like Charleston. Like I want
Yeah.
to do like some new places. Um, and I want to get back to California because I didn't get there this year, actually.
I kind of want to go to like Montana.
Yeah, my grandparents lived in like Wyoming and Montana area, and I went when I was really little. I remember like I was like 2, 3. So I mean I don't remember a whole lot, but I can vividly remember like some of the scenery, which is crazy because sometimes my memory I feel like is so bad. But again, like it must have been a good core memory where like you can remember those things. So I remember like a little bit of it. And so my family talked about like taking a trip there, but that's 12 hours in the car with like your siblings, and that sounds like a disaster. We haven't committed to that. So lots of fun things, of course, too. So I think really just build that bucket list. It doesn't have to be accomplished this year, next year, but make that 5-year plan maybe. Like it was
Yeah.
so fun just to get to sit down and do that. Like it's not like a sealed document, like it's on like a piece of paper like this. Like it's nothing super serious, but it's just stuff that I want to accomplish. Like I would love to be debt free in 5 years. Is that gonna happen? Probably not with my decisions I'm still making. Um,
Yeah.
I would love to be able to, yeah, travel somewhere like extravagant, right? And be able to not have to worry about like money in a way, right?
Yeah.
You got
One
to,
of my one of my goals or like on the bucket list for sure is to go to New York and go see a Broadway show. I wouldn't care. And I wouldn't care if it was in the nosebleeds. Like,
okay, so I would love to do that. So I feel
yes.
like we could just plan that as well.
That
That's
would be amazing. I wouldn't care what the show is or like if it's in the nosebleeds. I would just want to be like, yeah, I've been to
right. I mean, I
Broadway.
think the same thing. Okay, so I will look into this for us. I mean, I'm a travel agent, right? I'll help us out. Because I've talked with other friends and they have like good recommendations for hotels that are near. And yeah, I feel like there's so many good shows that are on Broadway right now.
Yeah.
Plus more that will for sure come out. I mean, they're always new. When we have good Broadway shows that come to us here in Nebraska, and I
Well,
need to like
especially the lead has been having really good ones. They had like Hamilton,
I did
The
not
Book
get
of
that.
Mormon.
I
Oh
know.
yeah,
I want to go to Mean Girls.
I do too. And it's at the lead in February, March, I think.
Yes. And then The Lion King is coming to the Orpheum. Like, come on. That's gonna be
Yeah.
a no-brainer. And then Mamma Mia. I mean, I have to go to that because I feel like that's like my go-to. I know the whole soundtrack for sure. So, I mean, fun stuff that get to come just right here in Nebraska. I know we talked about how we're so rural and so basic here, but we get fun stuff that come here too.
Yes. You just have to look for it sometimes.
Right. Absolutely. So, well, great. This was fun just to wrap up our travel adventure. Of course, like I said, you're going to hear all about the travels as we continue through this first season of the podcast. But we have some plans for the next episode to talk about small town Nebraska. So,
Yay.
when we talked about on our very first intro episode, which feels like 5 years ago, we talked about how we're both from very small towns here in Nebraska. So we're going to talk about those very small towns and what we find fun and exciting and what we find not so fun and not so exciting. So stay tuned for that in November. And can't wait to talk with you then.
Oh, can't wait to see you guys again. As always, just remember that we're all human. We all make mistakes. It's hard to be a human. Being a human is tough and rough.
Amen. Amen. And as we go through this holiday season, make sure you take time for yourself, show your gratitude and grace, and just enjoy life and keep trucking along. So we'll see you soon.
Yes.
Have a great holiday.
Bye, everyone.